So for me, because I have that natural ability and a skill set that I've exercised for so many years in my life, I want to do that for people, like empower people in the kitchen.
Mm.
That is for me what will be my legacy, is getting people to find what feeds them.
Today's unreasonable human has always followed a path of nourishment, whether it be of the soul, the body, or the mind. She is a surfer, single mom, private chef, food writer, and culinary consultant. Her name is Jessica Monty. Jessica.
Ciao, Bella.
Ciao. Jessica, sweetie, it is so nice to have you on the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on Unreasonable Humans. When I first started the show, I always was like, Jessica Monty, she's one of those humans. I really want to chat to her because she's intriguing. So thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you here.
Well, I'm flattered. I mean, it's a great opportunity for me to spend some time with you. We both are so pretty busy with being moms and whatnot. It's a beautiful excuse to chat with you.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I know. That's what I love about this show. My kids always used to call me Miss Chitter Chatter when they were little. Now I'm like, well, now I have a reason. So, Jessica, today we're going to chat about a few things. I, first of all, want to chat about your upbringing. Where were you born, Jessica?
I was born in Miami, Florida. Uh, Grew up in Miami Beach, Florida. Moved to the beach when I was 10 and lived there till I was 23, and then left Florida.
And where's your family from originally?
I'm Cuban, second generation. My mom was born in New York and raised in Miami, and everyone's in Miami pretty much, my whole family.
So tell me, you're a surfer. This is one of the things I want to talk to you about is surfing. How did you first get attracted to surfing? Was it the fact that you grew up by the beach? What was it that brought you to surfing?
I have always been very tuned in with the ocean. I've loved the ocean my whole life. My mother was a big game fisherman, so I grew up with a boat behind my house my entire life.
Wow.
And I'm very aquatic. I'm aquatic, and I've always been a wannabe surfer. I attempted a couple times in Miami, well, in South Florida to surf, but I was young, and it's like hurricane swell and so intense.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of experiences the times that I did go out. I almost walked, I literally almost died and then fell asleep on the beach for hours. I was so exhausted, paddling and paddling these hurricane swells. So then I really been a wannabe my entire life. And the catalyst of becoming a surfer was when I got divorced and I moved to California, setting out to be a surfer. I dove full force, surfed most days of the week since then.
Okay, so how did you start? Like, did you just get a board? Because you'd obviously tried in Miami, very brave, first of all, let me tell you. So when you came to this coast and you decided, did you just go out on your own? Did you have a teacher or what did you do?
Well, I first attempted to be a surfer a couple of times. When I moved to New York City in 2003, I was 23. I went and signed up for a surf camp in Costa Rica. It was an all women's surf camp, and went there and learned to surf, and have since made two of my best girlfriends that I'm still very in touch with for over 20 years now, because it's been 20 years. So I learned to surf in Costa Rica by myself. And then I just didn't utilize it until I moved to California in 2013. But really, I learned to surf in 2015. And again, I went back to Costa Rica. I hired some guy, Maria Del Mar, who taught me to surf originally. Her surf coach, she since has hired other people to do her job. Her surf coach, I hired him for a week just to freshen up my skill set. And essentially, it was a week. And then I came back to California and had to really learn to surf. Because learning to surf and popping up and all that is one thing that I found probably the easiest part. The other part is learning the culture, the hierarchy, the etiquette. That was really the learning curve. And that was the hardest part for me in, and then also just putting in my time, like learning how to read the waves in the ocean. There's no cheating in learning to surf, you know.
So let's talk about, okay, so learning the ocean and stuff I get, because you got to like really take your time. You got to sit and watch the waves. Like I remember when I first moved to LA, it was the first time I lived by the ocean. And I remember like it was very nerve-wracking for me having young kids who were, wanting to go into the ocean and having to watch them at all times and realizing that, like it really does take you just sitting and literally just sitting and watching the ocean to really start to understand it. But the culture of surfing, like I think the only time any of us landlocked people ever knew what, like, got a taste of what maybe surf culture is was when we watched like movies like Point
Break, yeah.
Does that happen? Is it like that sort of, do people get territorial?
Oh yeah, especially where in Topanga Canyon, it's a scarcity epidemic. There's a limited amount of ways, a scarcity resource situation where there's a certain amount, and when it's good, and people feel more deserving. There's a whole I mean, I wouldn't say it's as territorial as it maybe once was. Since the pandemic, the culture has changed a lot. But yeah, it's a very, very fascinating, and I feel like the most challenging aspect of it.
Do you think that being a woman makes it harder?
I would say yes and no. I found that was the most interesting part, like I or surprising. Like I really haven't dealt with, I would say, the toxic masculine or just this patriarchy like I have with surfing and working in a professional kitchen. I was surprised by both. Coming from South Florida, to be honest, I worked as a bartender, cocktail waitress, and sexuality was always part of that, and being cute, and there was always fair game, and if anything, I had kind of like the lead in that, the upper hand in a sense, right? But then in these other things where you want to be respected as just being an equal, there's this whole other weird dynamic and this whole other power trip that I just really I only learned as a, older woman. I didn't really experience it as much as a young person. But yeah, it's very much, a man's world out there. I'm outnumbered a lot. And it's finding that real, beautiful balance of the masculine and feminine out there has been really challenging for me. I'm a single mom, so in nature, I could kind of lean towards this masculine side, which I don't really love, but it's part of like my survival tactics. But when I go to the ocean, I want to exercise my feminine. I'm in like the ocean and this embryonic situation, and it's like this beautiful medicine for me. But then here I am, I'm like having to prove myself and not let a man take advantage of me. And it's a crazy dichotomy. It's been a very interesting journey all these years, now, a decade of surfing,
Yeah. It's so interesting because, as you've been saying that, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I experienced as a DJ, because the DJing industry is the same. It's like very male dominated. And you come into this space wanting, like, for me, my music that I was sharing was not about anything male. It was all about my femininity and sharing this beauty that is music and dancing and this like really, really sacred feminine aspect of myself. But because I was in this male dominated industry, I also had to prove that I wasn't just getting the gigs because, I was like, I wasn't using my sexuality to get the gigs. I actually was a good DJ, and I could actually mix, and I could actually technically do the thing like the guys could do it. And I had to sort of prove myself in this really weird way. And
100%.
It's
Yeah.
weird, right? And I find like it's like that in so many industries for women, really. Like that we have to come into these spaces that are male dominated, find our way by like not don't be too sexual, don't be too flirtatious, don't be too this, but at the same time, you wanting to express that because that is you inside, right?
Yeah,
That's
I
like
mean,
the feminine.
you want to be seen, but you don't want to be seen like that. Like I don't
Yeah.
want you to see me from my tits and ass and wearing my G-string. First of all, I don't even surf in that stuff because I don't want that to be a thing. But
Yeah.
I want to be seen. Like, hey, I'm here. Don't
Yeah.
paddle around me. It's my turn. No, 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 no. It's my turn. Not your.
So what do you do? What is the thing? Well, how do
It's
you find
it's
balance?
a hard balance. Like I feel, part of it is like, I can't help it. I'm a saucy Latina woman.
Yeah.
I grew up with strong women and I don't let people take advantage of me. So there's this very strong hard thing for me where I have to, I literally have a prayer meditation and I go out to surf and I activate my force field. I know it sounds so cheesy, but I do this. And I
Mm.
imagine a force field and like I'm in a great mood, or this is what I want to get from my surf session. This is what I want to exercise, and not going to let this, toxic energy or the aggro vibe,
Mm.
you
And
know.
I guess it's also changed, right? Because it's not only like I think guys have also got the brunt of it, which sucks because I see like I mean, you're a mom of boys, I'm a mom of boys. And I see how like they've really connected both to all sides of themselves. They don't feel ashamed to cry, they don't feel ashamed to have emotions. And so I think like well, I'm sure there's guys out there who are surfers who are these soulful, like, don't want to be the aggro, don't want to be because they have the same feeling. They want to
I,
connect with
I, I
you.
agree with you, and that's what I was trying to tell you with this whole force field thing, that you go out there, but like the water, I believe, is like a conductor, and if there becomes like a scarcity, if there's like an agitation in the water, all of a sudden you find yourself like agitated and like competing for a wave. Where I'm like, wait, 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 I'm not here to compete with anybody. And then so I think it's a balance. You have to really be self-aware and exercise patience and humility and gratitude for being in that space, but everyone is succumbed to that kind of energy. It's a matter of just, I don't know, that's how I see it. I think there are really wonderful guys, and I do surf with really, really wonderful men who are impeccable and fun and rip, but there's so many personalities. There's just so many people trying to catch a wave and so little, not enough waves for everybody else. So
Yeah.
and it's interesting, you have to let some things go. But as a woman, to answer your question, really wrapping it around, it's like there's a balance. Like sometimes I have to speak up for myself, and sometimes I just have to let it go. You
Mhm.
can't control people's behavior. You just have to let it go.
Yeah. But you also have to speak up for yourself. Like I think you tell me like there was a situation once with you and a woman who was also a surfer and what did she say to you?
Well, it was a really beautiful, beautiful day, and the waves were really good, and I was on a really amazing wave. And this guy did what's called dropping in. So I'm on the line, I'm surfing, I'm in the right of way, and he went right in front of me, and we collided, and his board flung in the air and hit my shin bone really hard. And so I fell, and it really hurt. And I got up, and he was with his friend in the water right there on the inside, and his friend was laughing, and I was defending myself like, hey, I was up on the wave surfing, and, you hit me, and he's like laughing, and a woman paddled up to me and said, just smile. And I was, I'm not going to mention her culture, but it's a culture thing. I'm like, I just don't let people act out like that and not be accountable. I probably should sometimes more than I do, but I just stand up for myself. I was like, no, this is not a just smile, pretty thing. Like this is like
Mm.
he was out of line and he wasn't accountable. And yeah, and sometimes I feel that, like I feel responsible because maybe I'm Latina and a big mouth, that like I have to stand up for the girls, because a lot of the women don't say anything. A lot of
Mm.
women, just let the guy paddle around and burn them and don't say anything. And that's, I believe that's part of the problem. but there's a balance there too, because you just want to have fun. Like, I don't want to be someone's mom out there, like
Yeah.
I'm already a mom of two boys, and often I'm going out there after I drop them off at school, and it's pretty stressful as it is. Like, I just want to discharge and not deal with other people's shit, But
Yeah.
it's so that's what I'm saying. It's such a fine balance of like, do I say something? Do I make myself known, or do I just let it go?
Yeah. And also, so it should be okay for you to, and also say that's not okay. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like, why should you have to just smile? Like, that's the problem. So there are women in the world that really piss me off because they enable this patriarchal way of being. And not all men are like this. I'm not saying all men are like this, but the guys who are, women enable it by doing the things like just smile. Do you know how many times in my DJing career people would come up to me while I was busy DJing and say, "Oh, smile, honey."
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not here to smile at you. I'm not here. I'm here to play music for you. Are you asking the guy before me or the guy after me to smile while he's DJing? Are you fucking kidding? Like, that sort of behavior has to change. And it is women like you who are going to be the change makers, because you have to, like, you were totally in the right. The guy dropped in, like, so the etiquette, what is the etiquette? Tell me the etiquette of riding a wave, Jessica, because I don't know what the etiquette is.
So if this in situations in a right point break. So when you're in a right point break, which means you catch the wave and you kind of you lean or direct your board to the right.
Yeah.
The person to the furthest left is in position, and you're supposed to take turns up there at the top, right? The more beginner you are, the more of the inside you would surf, but you have to be mindful of the person on the left. So if they're coming down the line and they don't fall, they don't look like they're falling, you're not supposed to go in front of them.
Fair enough.
In this particular situation, I was up and surfing, smiling, ripping, having a blast, and the guy decided to just go in front of me, and we collided. The thing is though, to touch on what you were saying, the hard part is like, right, we also as human beings want to be liked. So the hard part about being the woman that I am out there, being a woman who stands up for herself, is that I have to lean into being called with a bitch. And that's really hard, like, it sucks because then you're like, oh, that's what I have to do is be that, and I've been called that because I've not only defended myself, but I've defended other people where they've burned someone, did something that's truly, it's a safety issue out there.
Yeah.
It's not only rude, but it's unsafe. Like, you can really get hurt. And, I've defended a friend where they collided and he went in front, and then, hey, you should pay attention, or so. I don't remember what I said. And like, that's what you get called. And it's
It's interesting. It's so interesting. It's so infuriating for me because it is. It's just like, if it was a guy, they'd just be like, oh, whatever, man. Like, there would be like a what? But as soon as a woman does that to somebody who thinks they have the rights, it's like they have to be labeled a specific thing, because
there's a stigma. There's a stigma for someone who,
absolutely,
speaks out. And even if I'm not being a bitch while I'm saying it, oftentimes I'm like, because I'm always thinking about it, dealing with my own boys, of how to say things without rubbing them wrong and being a bitch. It's no matter what. It's just,
And
it's a
at
hard
the
one.
end of the day, they've also, like, everybody's got to learn, like, you've got a right as a human being to stand up for yourself. But then, the way that you perceive other human beings in this world is really important. And if you're going to be prejudging a person on what they look like or what you assume them to be, that's also not okay. So, like, you going out and just saying what was wrong isn't anything that should be construed as being bitchy. It's just, there are rules when it comes to the water when you're surfing, and the reason there's rules in place is because, like you say, people can get really injured. Like, so yes, there's a pecking order, there's a hierarchy, whatever, but there are specific things rules that need to be followed. And if there aren't, then you can call them out. And if you call them out and you're called a bitch, that's ridiculous. Personally, I think it's stupid. So what do you say, what's your advice for young girls who want to surf, who are a little bit nervous to go out there? Because I know, look, I'm not a young girl. I've always wanted to learn how to surf, but it's, first of all, okay, waves terrify me. Like a 1 foot wave feels like it's a 5 foot wave to me. But it also, like you say, it's that whole, you notice there's a culture in these small little, on these small beaches where there's oh, this is our beach. And you don't feel very welcome to go into the water and even try it out. So what is your advice to young girl surfers who are wanting to start out and wanting to go surf, but they're a little bit nervous? What are some pointers that you can give them?
Well, first I would say, in my opinion, surfing is the best sport in the world. And it's the most fun thing I've ever done. And I will chase it as long as my physical body will let me. Being in the ocean and learning to ride waves is such a beautiful, fantastic dance, and it's empowering. With that said, all great things, it takes a lot of time and effort. So be committed to putting in your time. You're not going to get it overnight. I would say, like any new spot that I surf, just as a beginner, you don't just go out and try to catch all the waves. The best thing you could do is to put on your wetsuit or get on your board, find the right equipment that you need to get on, do the research. There's so much information out in the world. Figure out your equipment, go out there and just be in the ocean. Be in the ocean and pay attention. I don't go to any new spot without sitting there for a few minutes and getting the lay of the land. You watch the people, what they're doing, how that pecking order is working. You're looking to the right, you're looking to the left, you're just exercising your sense of awareness. Where's the peak? How's that going? Oh, look, she seems to be having fun. She seems to know what she's doing. And, follow the teacher. I went on a lot of retreats when I first started surfing. Like I said, I'm big on that. If I want to learn a thing, I find someone that I vibe with and I'm like, tell me what you know. That's just me. I've done that with a million things in my life. I'm always find someone who knows what they're doing, and I ask a lot of questions. So go on a surf retreat, and treat it like that's what you're doing. Like you're there to learn to surf. And that's what you do for as many days in a row as you can afford, because getting it in your body is the main thing, right? And firing up the synapses, so much of it is synapses and muscle memory and oh, that's what it feels like to catch a wave. So just getting it in your body and being patient and try to have fun and make friends. It's easy to make friends in the ocean. It's the coolest loner sport on the planet. You make friends everywhere and you'll get to know people right away. So yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I like that advice. Do you think that the industry, like surfing as a sport, is the guys out there, it's changing? Do you think that it's becoming a little bit better, or do you think it's still always going to be like this? Do you think it's going to be one of these age old, this is just the way it is, you're going to have to just follow the pack? Or
I don't know. I think it's changed so much since I started surfing. The pandemic hit and we have a whole new wave of people that had a lot of time on their hands that learn to surf. And so they don't have this learn etiquette. They just a bunch of people, a big swarm of people have just jumped into this world of surfing with no etiquette, and there's not follow the teacher like there used to be, So I don't know. I'm always a believer in evolution and bettering ourselves and getting better. I'm less of a pessimist and more of an optimist. I feel like the culture for women's is only going to get better because there's going to be more people like me speaking up, and also more people, that soften in the ocean and really do spread that aloha vibe, which is so freaking awesome. I don't know. There's a lot of, I think if people are just there's gonna be more and more, surfing. It's just a matter how long it takes us for it to get us to get better at sharing. I don't know, us humans have a hard time with the sharing of all the resources. So I don't know, but like I said, I'm gonna lean on the like be more optimistic and less pessimistic about the situation. I don't know. I love surfing so much. I can't say I don't want anybody to learn to surf because it was the greatest gift I gave myself and Mother Earth gives me every day. So, okay, come on, bring it.
Yeah, I love that. That makes me want to do it. My commitment is this year. Every year it's my commitment. My kids are like, Mom, you say this every year. I'm like, this year I will stand on a board on foamies.
It's so much fun.
Get up there.
It really is such a beautiful thing. It's the ocean is just so powerful. It's medicine. It really, really is. I can't even tell you when I was on my lowest low of day and you get in the ocean, even with the, sometimes shitty encounters, like I always feel better in the ocean. I just always do. And I hope, you do it. Come out this summer. The water's going to get warm and go on a vacation with your family and do it with the boys. It's so, so awesome.
Yeah, I know. I need to do it. I think it's one of those things where it feels like one of those things that when you connect with the ocean in that way, suddenly you connect with something inside yourself that's this young part of yourself that you've forgotten. It's like this youthful, they call it the stoke, right?
Yeah, it's stoke. It's definitely like childlike behavior, and especially as a woman older. Like I learned at 34 to surf, and of course I wish I would have learned it younger, but I am so fine with surfing the kind of boards that I like, doing it the way I like. I'm not trying to be pro. I'm just trying to have fun. And, setting the ego aside and just going for that, like that you're not trying to ride like the tiniest board and like, maybe you want to be the best you could be, but like just going out and have fun. It's awesome. It's so awesome. I got a foamy for you, girl.
Okay,
so
awesome. Thank you. So I love how your love for surfing collided with your love for cooking. So you're a private chef and an amazing chef at that. And you once cooked at Kelly Slater's, it's called the Surf Ranch, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that because Kelly Slater, first of all, feels like one of those people. I've never met him, but what I know of him, he feels like one of those nice guys.
He's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just the stroke of luck and synchronicity or whatever you call it. I was doing a job pro bono for a friend. She just needed help with, manning the grill, and she's vegetarian. So I told her that I would do it. I had leftover sauces and whatnot, and I would just, do all the grill fare for this party. And I knew everyone at this party except this one guy, Dan Greer, who just showed up and he was eating everything and just chatting me up. And he called me a month later. He got my number through a friend and just randomly said, "Hey, do you know what the Surf Ranch is? You mean that video that went viral like it was early, first season. I worked there 4 seasons, so almost 4 years, but not the whole year. It was just open. It wasn't open to the public at all. It was just a experimental stage prototype. Hey, I like this wave. And I was like, oh yeah, Kelly Slater Surf Ranch. You know who Kelly is? I'm like, yeah. Did you surf? I'm like, yes. He's like, well, we have a VIP coming this weekend. Can you just cook the same food you did that other night that I met you? Just cook like that for the weekend. And I was like, I'll be there. So I loaded my truck with a weekend worth of food, packed to the brim, showed up at the Surf Ranch, and slayed it. And then they kept calling me like, hey, we've got this VIP. Hey, we've got this VIP. Hey, we have a budget. Hey, can we build a kitchen? How many people can you feed? How many people can we open this to the public? Can you do, 150-person party? Can we give you a walk-in? Like, it was this whole cool prototype rebuilt of the ranch,
Oh,
and it was a really wonderful opportunity and honestly like a perfect marriage because there I am working with a bunch of young boys. They're like in their 20s, hot surfer guys, super amazing. The GM at the time was, I think also in his 20s. So all these dudes, and here we are, like entertaining millionaires and billionaire surfer people from having to, activate hospitality. And so I'm like, light the incense, pull the seat down, set the table, make it look beautiful.
yeah.
And this mom, person who loves to entertain, who loves nutrition and feeding athletes. I've been interested in nutrition for years. So it was like, oh, that's what I do. Like, I know how to feed these people. I know what they want when they come out of the water. I know what
Yeah.
they want to eat. So it was a perfect.
Did-
I mean, and then there's a barrel. There's a barrel for dessert, which was a great work perk.
I was gonna say, did you get to surf it? I was like,
Yes. I mean, I got to surf it more early on. My job became more full towards the end of my time there. I was, more, training a lot of staff at that, at the end, there was like 4 other cooks that I was training to do my recipes when I wasn't there. And hospitality and big time, people that are spending a lot of money to be there. So there was less, waves to be had, or they would offer them to me because the guests would ask me, hey, do you want to surf the last wave of the day, which happens to be at that time right before dinner. And I would obviously decline because you don't work all day to make a beautiful dinner to walk away
yeah.
at the end there. That just doesn't, I'm just way too professional, inspired, and controlling to let go of my hard work like that.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so,
Yeah.
okay, so what do surfers eat? Like, is there specific stuff that you think, like, what are some meal ideas that you created that were really great nutrition wise for a surfer?
Oh
For
my God, that's a funny story. I don't know if I'm gonna answer it the way you were asking it, but
no, answer it the way you
I'll
want to
never
answer it.
forget. I cooked at the ranch a long time before I met Kelly, actually. And I was kind of, excited when Kelly was gonna spend the weekend and I was gonna cook for him and what to cook for him and what do I think he wants? I got a very short list of the things he didn't like or whatever requests things that he usually lean towards. But I didn't speak to him. So I had to kind of wing it and think of what I know if Kelly would want to eat. And at the end of cooking for him that weekend, we became friends. And I think he's such a wonderful guy. He was such he's a very simple guy when it comes to food. He likes really healthy, nutritious, but, nutrition, but mostly I would say he's an aeritarian during the day, and then eating at night, like just not eating a whole lot, just really feeding on the waves and the surf. But at the end, he said to me, I really love chocolate chip cookies because my mom would come make chocolate chip cookies for the boys when we'd get out of the water when we were kids. So then the next time I went there, I made this incredible coconut coconut almond milk, and I served it with warm chocolate chip cookies. And I called the recipe Kelly's mom's cookies, even though it's not Kelly's mom's recipe. It's like a healthier version of chocolate chip cookies, but they're still got the butter and the things and so I think that to answer your question, so we called it cookies and milk. There's a whole other story about the milk, but um I feel like with food, when you feed people, like what people want always is, soul food. So, feeding people nutritious food, thoughtful, nutritious food, but also people want nostalgia. Like a lot of times I come back from surf trips, and I am inspired to cook the things from that I learned in these, travels because it brings me this beautiful nostalgia. And that day for Kelly Slater, it's a chocolate chip cookie with warm milk.
Ah, it's so sweet.
I know. I know.
Oh God, did you love it?
He did. He really did. And then he's a funny guy, Like then I'll never forget the next time he came. I was doing an experiment. I pulled off all the skin off the trout and I dehydrated and crisped up the trout skin and I left it on what's called a speed rack. So it was drying, so it get extra crispy. And I was going to use the top of the skin to garnish something else. Kind of had this kind of like this chip situation that I was thinking up. He came into the kitchen and took and ate a lot of those trout skin chips. So the next time when I asked him what he wanted for when I came up, what he wanted me to cook, he's like, I want you to make a salad with that trout that you made, but can you put the trout skin chips on top?
Amazing. Oh, that's so great. So unique. I love that. What are some of your favorite recipes that you cooked there? Do you remember besides that?
Stuff like that. I mean, I cooked so many things there, Jesus. So many different special events. I tried to make balanced, nutritious food, and there was a lot of themes, like there'll be like Mexican kind of theme. I did a whole lechon, a whole pig for a very big event.
Wow.
I like to do whole animal, and I did it traditional to my people, Cuban style, kind of whole lechon. All kinds of, things. I really like to learn a little bit about the guests and what they're into and their parameters. And really, that's how I cook, period, is understanding what they like, what they don't like, what makes them feel good, and what they're craving. And that always is the greatest inspiration for me versus like cooking up some idea, like that, or like a travel will inspire me going somewhere. I'll have a laundry list of things that I want to try out. That's usually where it comes from.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I want to go like into your past. Is that like, how did your love for cooking start? Was this like a family thing?
Well, food and nutrition go hand in hand for me. My grandmother was an excellent cook, hospitality queen, took really good care of me in the food department. My whole family is really good at entertaining and cooking, and loving food. Everyone's pretty physically fit in my family, exercise a lot. So when you're exercise a lot, you need proper fuel. So that was always a thing. My father was sick when I was young. He had cancer and passed away when I was 10. So that's what really kind of ignited this passion with understanding how food affects you and nutrition. So I was, and also growing up in Miami Beach, it's a very like, you want a bikini body, like what is healthy food for the bikini body? What will get you sick? So I studied nutrition. I lived on my own since I'm 16. So I've been cooking and fending for myself for a very long time. And I love to entertain. I've always been good at having people over for dinner. It's always been a thing of mine. So yeah, again, like I said, the whole fitness thing, what food fuels you. I became a yoga teacher, and then I decided to become a holistic health counselor. So I studied nutrition and would consult people around diet and nutrition for about a decade before I had kids.
Wow. I love that. And I love that you're also a qualified yoga teacher. I think there's like this amazing through thread between your interests. So like the surfing, the cooking, and the yoga. Like to me, it feels like you're quite an elemental being. Like you tie like the surfing, you're connecting with water and with Mother Nature through that, and then the cooking, you're connecting to food which comes from the earth, and then yoga is all of that. Like it's the same. You're connecting to the higher self and everything around us, and we're all. It's so beautiful. I really love that you know, did all of that. Was that intentional? That you
Well, I've always, like I said, I've always exercised, and moving my body and using my physical body as a medium has been a great medicine for me. A lot of people like talk therapy. I really need to move my body and process things through my body. So for me, yoga was that for so many years. I did it for 20 something. I still do it. I do it less now because I've become hypermobile and very flexible, and then found surfing. I still do it, but surfing for me is like a next level yoga. It's like not just the posture, but then there's this whole other element you can't control. that you
Mm.
have to like find that balance in this element. So
Mm.
that's what surfing feels like to me. It's like not just holding the pose, but it's holding the pose, and then the board's moving, and then there's the ocean, and like it's like this
Mhm.
whole other meditation. And then I feel like I'm constantly going to be this evolving being and learner of things and finding tools that make me feel good in
Mm.
my life, and that's what yoga was for so long, and the nutrition and understanding how to make myself feel better through food,
Mm.
and then in turn teach what I know. Like even with cooking, like I'm very passionate about cooking and entertaining and taking care of people, feeding people, nourishing people. But beyond that, teaching is my passion. Like
Mhm.
that's what I want to do. Like I have a knack for just throwing myself into a thing and figuring it out,
Mm.
and trying my best to master it. Although I feel like all the things I do, I will never be a master of them. I'm just going to constantly be a learner. So for me, because I have that natural ability and a skill set that I've exercised for so many years in my life, I want to do that for people, like empower people in the kitchen.
Mm.
That is for me what will be my legacy, is getting people to find what feeds them in every way. Like it's the
Yes.
yoga, the nutrition, for the
Yes.
food. Like that's just
Yeah, you find what feeds people, Jessica. That's so beautiful. Yes, I love that so much. What's next for you? Like, where do you go from here?
I have a vision for sure. I'm very clear where I'm going. First of all, just being in gratitude for how far I've come and where I am. I love my job. I love my clients so much. I have the most amazing people that I get to feed, and
Mm.
I feel appreciated, and it's lovely. I
Mhm.
do feel that teaching aspect is a calling that I'm constantly trying to find ways to do. I've been working on my cookbook for a while. It's a cookbook that demystifies cooking. It's not just an average cookbook. It's a cookbook that deconstructs recipes to teach, like I said, empower people to figure out their way. Like my way is not the way. Like what's your way of doing this thing? But here's the skills that you need, and these are the tools that'll make your life easier, right?
Mm.
So I'm doing that, figuring out how to make that happen for myself, because it's hard, it's a weird world in publishing now, with influencers, and I'm a real working single mom chef. Like I don't have time to be a professional influencer. I'm cooking food. I'm trying to put food on the table for my own family. It's a lot. So
Yeah.
it's been a little discouraging talking with publishers about why my cookbook why it's important and why I need them to sell it for me versus me having to sell it for them. That's
Mm.
a hard one. So I've decided, I started a Substack this last month. Actually, I posted, I think, already 4 times. Once a week is my goal. So it's a platform for me to really put out snippets of my book, and to just exercise this burning need of putting these recipes and food stories out there, like where things come from for me, I
Mm.
feel are, and how I get inspired by food. I hope to inspire a reader or two in the
Yeah.
same way. So the Substack for me is a place where I could practice that and just exercise this need. And then one day I'm just going to have that big beautiful property where I have the cooking school out back of my house, with
Yeah.
a long countertop and the bigger garden, and a place where I can invite people to my space and have cooking classes. I want to do that right out of my home out
Mm.
back. And that's, I see it so very clearly in my mind, and just figuring out how to, make all that money, girl.
Yeah, for sure. What is your Substack? How do you get onto what is I don't
It's
know.
my name. Substack it's at Jessica Monty.
Monty. Okay, yes.
My website's Jessica Monty. My Instagram is Jessica __Monty. And then right there in my profile, you could click my Substack is right next to my website on my profile there too. And I
Okay.
love Substack. It's little snippets of writings. You can follow people. I just feel like social media has gotten a little bit boring for me. And like, I
Mm.
love the images. I've always been very much into photography. So I'll still use Instagram. But I also just love reading. I love
Mm.
reading really heartfelt things. And there's people that I really like what they have to say. So that's how I found it, by reading Substack.
So when you eventually have your cooking book, do you have ideas of what you want to call your cooking
Oh,
book?
it's called Salt Air, one word.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, it's called Salt Air. And, you know, without reading you my introduction, essentially salt makes a thing better. Anything, avocado, it enhances the flavor of anything, right?
Mhm.
So, um, it's in the air we breathe, by the ocean. And
Mhm.
that's really the essence of what I'm trying to do with the book, is to help people find ways to make their life more beautiful
Mhm.
by, taking care of themselves, cooking for their family,
Mhm.
um, finding all the little snippets and joy in life, in the mundane, and the sitting there and peeling the carrot over and over again. There's beauty in these little things, right? Like, it's not the cookbook, right? It's like writing each chapter, that these are the things that really, really fulfill us in the moment, right? So Saltaire is all about that.
I can't wait for it to come out. Jessica, it's gotta happen. It sounds like my type of cookbook because I like to sometimes, oh, if I just add this or I don't have this, maybe if I add this. And I've, yes, made huge disasters before, but a lot of the times it's worked. So,
No, I think that's how I've always cooked. I
yeah.
only learned to follow recipes when I went to culinary school. I was like,
Mm.
what do you mean? I got to follow this recipe for a year? What do you mean? Do I have to follow it? They're like, yeah, that's what you do in culinary school. And I was like, what? This is what I'm paying you for? Like, I'm like the anti-recipe, but there are, so my cookbook is for people who don't want to follow the recipe, that they're like, oh, if there's maple syrup, I don't have maple syrup. Look, it's asking for a sweet. So you could use honey, you can use agave, you can use a little, but with baking, this is why you can't mess with the liquid.
Yes.
And if you do, this is how you do it. Like, you don't have sour cream? No problem. Let me teach you. But it's to help people learn how to deconstruct them so they're not feeling like a slave to the recipe. Because that's the thing, then people don't want to cook. And they're like, oh my God, I have to get all these things at the store.
Mm.
So, I think my book is for you too, because even though you already do that, it'll teach you the ways of how you can do it safely without.
Yeah, I've made chocolate brownies with honey before. That didn't work.
No, the baking is the hardest thing. You really need to learn how to break the rules in that one.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you're at least teaching people the rules safely.
Yeah, exactly. It's like surfing, and then I'm going to teach you how to break them.
I love it.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Jessica, I've loved this conversation. But yeah, I would like to finish off our conversation with my 3 unreasonable questions. So, my first question, Jessica, is what is the most unreasonable thing you've ever done?
Unreasonable.
Yeah.
I don't think like that though. Like, that's unreasonable. Like, everything is reasonable. I do whatever I want. I don't know what's unreasonable. What is your definition of unreasonable, sister?
Oh, well, that's what I'm going to ask you next. So that's going to be my last question. So I love your answer
I flipped it on you,
because
girl.
you just don't even know what unreasonable is because everything is reasonable because you just do it. I love
Yeah.
it. Love that. Okay. My second question for you is what is one of the greatest gifts that surfing and cooking have brought into your life?
Flow state is number one. I'm
Mhm.
addicted to flow state, and surfing and cooking. I get to do that. When I'm doing my private chef work, I'm cooking 5 things at once. The music's on. I the oven, I'm doing this thing, prep for that, doing this, and I'm just in a moment where I'm not thinking about anything, I'm just doing.
Mm.
I'm addicted to that feeling. Surfing, you can't think about anything else when you're doing that. And well, sometimes you can actually. There'll be moments where I can think and where I'm like, hey, that's me on the wave behind you. It's me surfing. I don't know why you're doing that. But on a good day, that is what it's all about. It's just tuning into the moment and that flow. Um, I don't know. I guess I love to love, and cooking for me is such an act of loving on the produce and the things, the animals that I can work with to feed and nourish someone. I just love taking care of my people. Like it's a very satisfying thing for me, and then it tastes so good, and then I can make a memory, and it's this whole thing that I just love. And surfing is, often like a hug for me. Like it's like the mother nature hug for me, where I'm stressed and anxiety ridden. It's like busy being a single mom, and then I'm like, I go out and I'm paddling out, and a wave just crashes over my head, and then I forget. I'm like, I'm small. I'm just in this big, vast, beautiful thing that just is like a hug. It's like a very, even though it's cold sometimes, it's a very cold, beautiful hug. Getting on a wave and being able to finally get to a point where I can honor the wave by having the skill to do what's needed at that moment. It's that
Yeah.
mama nature hug.
I love that. My final question for you today, let's circle back. So, what is your definition of an unreasonable human, Jessica?
Unreasonable human, I guess self-awareness. Unreasonable is just not aware. They're just unaware of what's going on for everybody else. Unreasonable is just not in tune with themselves, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, because when you truly are an unreasonable human, you can't fathom what that anything that you are doing is unreasonable because it's so
Because you're
authentic.
yeah.
It's so authentic. And to other people who haven't found that within themselves and who are afraid, who live in fear, who live from this aspect of worrying about what others are going to think, those people look at people like you and think, gosh, she's so unreasonable. But because you are doing something that deep down inside for them, they would probably love to do, but they can't because they're stopping themselves with all of their own bullshit.
Yeah. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. Well, you're a fabulous human. Whether we look at you as unreasonable, well, you are a fabulously unreasonable human because of your authenticity and because you're not the norm. And unfortunately, unreasonable humans are not the norm in this world. And they're the most aligned with themselves, they're most aligned with their soul purpose. I look at you and I think, oh my gosh, look at this golden thread in your life. Like all the things that you do, like are all part of this beautiful woven golden thread. It's so, so, so like it all makes so much sense.
It
So,
does. Now
yeah.
that I'm getting older, girl. Now I can look back and see that nice little tapestry. I think that's the beauty of age, man. I would not turn back the clock for anything.
Absolutely.
It's true. There are so many threads, and it's been a wonderful, wild ride. And I'm great for all of it, all the challenges. It's been such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Figuring it out, like forever learning, right?
Forever learning. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Unreasonable. You got to constantly.
Yeah. You have to be unreasonable with yourself all the time because, we're constantly changing and adapting and transforming and going into different metamorphoses of ourselves. And, for us to get to the next level, we have to be unreasonable with the old self because the old self doesn't want to go there because it's comfortable where they are. But you have to go and be uncomfortable. You have to be unreasonable with yourself to get to that next level. Otherwise, you're never going to get there. You're just going to stay in your complacency for the rest of your life, bored and afraid and lazy and uninspired.
100%. 100%.
Well, Jessica, thank you for this wonderful conversation. I hope that you have inspired many, many women out there to just get on a board and get out into the ocean and, and just what feeds your soul. Like, I just love that. You're one of those humans that just feeds your soul with things. So thank you for sharing your magic. It's so nice. I hope you've inspired people to just think, like, what is it that feeds me? That's what I'd like people to do now. Like, after this podcast, write a list of what feeds you. What feeds you? And if it feeds you, go out and do it. Go out and try it.
Yes, 100%. Most importantly, what feeds you now? Because we're always changing, evolving, and growing, and having to reevaluate what that is. And I think that that's such a beautiful takeaway. Yes, I would love that to be a takeaway. And happy to support it. So if anyone wants to reach out for support, and I'm here for you.
Yes, I'm going to put your details in the show notes too, so that people can get a hold of you, because I'm sure there might be people who want to contact you for your cooking or your mentorship. That's, a lot of people need that nowadays. Just somebody who's, just a great mentor, and you really are. So thank you so much, Jessica.
You're welcome. I'm proud of you for doing this. This is great. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't get to be on them a lot, so it's kind of cool. I'm really, really happy for you. It's awesome. You're really good at this, and it's such a, you in your lane doing your thing. It's pretty beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. I love you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Unreasonable Humans. Thanks so much for joining me. Please follow the show wherever you listen to your podcasts, and remember that a great rating goes a very long way to support the show. Until the next one, bye.